Okay, hi everybody, we're Team Golf, and we're going to talk to you guys about wireframing. I'm Chad.
I'm Meg.
I'm Izzy.
I'm Scott. Okay, so what is wireframing? Wireframing is very similar to a blueprint for a construction project. So basically, a construction crew would never be able to build a house, for example, without an architect giving them a blueprint that basically outlines everything from like where the walls are going to be to where doors and windows will be. So wireframe is very similar, but it's for a website or for an app. It's used prior to building a website to decide where things will be on the page. And the end goal is to ensure that everything not only looks good, but is very functional. So why should you use wireframing? Well, the first reason is because studies using eye tracing technology have shown how people read web pages. So as you can see here, people typically start in the upper left-hand corner of a web page and work their way across. Then they go down and back across before they go down again. So it's not like store design necessarily, but it's kind of similar to a way you would design a store for high traffic areas and low traffic areas where to get products so that people will buy them. It's kind of similar. You want to put your most important things where people are going to be looking to keep them on the web page longer. A few other reasons. It allows a web designer to show clients basically how the website might look without there being confusing colors or distractions of any type on the page. So, for example, if I worked for YouTube and I was hired to build a website for them, I might not want to just give them the actual website because there's a lot of distractions there. It would be better to show them a wireframe of the website. And also, if I built a website, it would take me hours and hours and hours to build versus I could just give them a wireframe, and that way if there's anything that they want to change, I don't have to start over from scratch. I have a wireframe I can just erase, try to edit it out. It's also very simple for a design team to follow. Obviously for smaller websites, you might have one designer working on the website, but for a lot of bigger websites, Facebook, YouTube, there's massive design teams that are involved. And so this way, they have something to go off of basically.
So wireframing is very relevant for MBAs because it's something called the tech gap, which is basically just the result of how quickly technology is advancing and changing. And many business leaders believe that most college grads are not prepared for the workplace, so adding something like wireframing to your resume would give you a competitive edge over other job seekers. And wireframing also allows you to communicate with other departments in a company. So not everyone necessarily needs to know exactly how to code or design a website, but they'll all be on the same page and know what the end product will look like. And it basically just allows you to save time and any miscommunications, even though you're adding in another step. It's definitely worth it at the end to create a more efficient process.
So I'm going to take you through a few examples of wireframes in use. Like I said earlier, the emphasis here is on like the layout of this page or app you're developing and the flow of operations, making sure that your great idea is able to be translated into something that you can actually build that's going to be practical. There are also different styles. How you just how you build your wireframes is largely up to personal preference, the particular product that you're designing, the needs of the team or the client. So it could be anything from just sketching out designs on the back of an envelope to using all these. There are a lot of online tools that really simplify things with dragging and dropping applications. As well as early on in the project, you're more focuses on getting ideas down on paper, getting the rough concepts down. Later on in the project, you would move to and that's called low fidelity. Higher fidelity wireframe is later on in the project, and then you start to kind of introduce style and I don't know, like, you know, button style and colors and concepts like that. Some of the tools online are listed there: wireframe.cc, balsamic.com, Mockflow, justmind.com, mockups.com, and I want to point out wireify.com is a pretty cool tool. It lets you turn any actual website into a wireframe type design. So you can, like, you know, if you see something that's like you really like, it's a great design, you can use that tool to break it down and see like the layout, like what the people were thinking when they built it. So this is from mockups.com. I thought it was a pretty cool example. It shows you have all the drop and drag toolbars on the side. You have this would be kind of in the middle of a little beyond first draft. They're starting to get into like the shopping carts on there and the sign in button. But you can see how you know, you have the whole team collaborating on this, and they're making notes as they go along. It's kind of replacing, you know, pre-COVID, you might do this on a whiteboard, but now that we're all remote and working from home, this is a great tool. You also see the flow of the pages signified by the arrows, and that's called wire flow. So you can kind of lay out, if you're building an app with many different pages, you kind of go from like one to the other and see, make sure it flows, make sure it all makes sense visually and conceptually. This would be a low fidelity example. This was built on Balsamic, and you notice it looks like, it almost has that hand-drawn look, and that's to kind of reinforce the idea that this is not a final project. This is very much a work in progress, and to encourage it to kind of develop and make changes. Little side note, you see that it has Latin filler on the bottom. That's called lorem ipsum, which is used frequently when you need to have a text to kind of flesh out your design, but you don't want to, it's a nonsensical Latin filler. It doesn't mean anything. The problem with using a random text generator is sooner or later you get something that is comes out humorous or unintentionally offensive, and it's just distracting to have actual words in there. So this is how low fidelity wireframe might go to a high fidelity wireframe in the future. You have the low fidelity on the right hand side. You see the, you know, you kind of see it's just like rough sketches. They're just getting the idea down, kind of getting the general layout, and then this serves as a blueprint for the higher fidelity wireframe, which you might show to the client later on to kind of, you know, make sure everyone's still on the same page. This is another, we're going to go from a low fidelity to a high fidelity example here too. It's kind of sounded like the project you brought up earlier with the Indian recipe restaurant, but he's building an app where you're logging a recipe and going through and getting the recipe, getting the shopping list basically from the recipe. So he has a rough wire flow going through from the home page to the recipe list to the recipe details on the top, and then on the bottom, like a way to add recipes to, or ingredients to your shopping list, going from the recipe list to the details to the shopping list. And then this turns into that, which, yes, on the top you have the, you know, the home page, which has now been kind of fleshed out in color, and recipe list is still not filled out fully, but you get a much greater sense of what it's going to look like as a final project.
Okay, so now I'm going to take you through a case study that we did with Boosted Boards, and Boosted Boards is a company that creates electronic skateboards, and Boosted Boards wanted to create an iOS app. So they reached out to the company TM, and basically what they wanted with the app was for its riders to be able to update the board directly on their phone. So I'm going to take you through the design process that the company TM went through to create this app. So first off, they started with understanding this client and its product. So they did this in two different ways. The first, they sat with the designers and the developers of the product, and they kind of talked with them and got to hear their motivations for the product and like what they like looked for with their customers and what they wanted the product to come out to. And then they actually got to experience riding the product. So they went on a couple community rides with some customers who have purchased the product and really like it. And this kind of helped them gain a better understanding of the company and what the user experience was going to be with the app. The next step was to understand similar technology. So like we've said before, Tesla creates these vehicles, and Tesla has an app that connects their mobile devices with their vehicles. So it kind of gave TM an understanding of a similar app that they could create too. So then the next step was they had to sketch out their designs, which you're going to see in the next slide is their sketches. And it was just basically their initial ideas and putting them on paper. And an important process, like creating apps and everything, is to give a version to, for instance, this company, to Boosted, and continuously gain feedback on the designs that they're creating. The next step in the process is to create the wireframes, the detailed UX flows, and some tappable prototypes. Something else is that they really need to spec out these designs and give them to the software developers so that they really have a distinct idea of what to create for the product. And then the next step in the process is like what I like to call making it pretty. So they add visuals and colors and icons, and they add pictures from the company, and they're continuously getting feedback to make sure that this is what Boosted wants with their products. So this is their initial sketches of what they wanted the app to be. You can see they want it to connect to Bluetooth, and then pair it and create those updates. And then if you go to the next slide. So this is their final product of the first version of the app. So with this, you can update your board, you can select a ride mode. So for these electronic skateboards, there's 4 ride modes. There's beginner, pro, expert, and eco mode. You can also track mileage, and you can compare your stats with other riders throughout the app. And you can also learn how to use the app more safely with some in-app tutorials. All right, that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
I know you guys mentioned some resources of like home pages where you could do wireframing or where you could mock up stuff like that, but do you know of anything like edX or any like educational courses where they teach you how to do that?
Yeah, I meant to mention it with Balsamiq. They actually have a whole wireframing academy, they call it. It's a whole section on their website with like videos and tutorials and lessons. So that's a pretty good resource. Yeah.
My question was kind of similar, based on like all the resources we have for wireframing. Is there one in particular that you would recommend based on your research? Like one that you just like more than the other?
I'll kind of go first. I would just do it with a pen and paper. To be honest, that's just more my style. It's really up to personal preference. But I think I would work faster just scribbling ideas out before going to an online resource. And I don't have a favorite one at the moment. I'm only recently an expert on this topic, so.
That's a good question, though. Since we probably will be using one of these tools for your final project, did any of these products that you evaluated appeal to you?
The free ones mostly.
The free ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think like when I was initially Googling wireframing, a lot of the videos are from these like online websites to wireframe, so they're kind of pitching their product and showing them how it works like through their product. So like in my opinion, they all look great and they all look like they're very user friendly, which is pretty helpful for me. But yeah, I think there's a lot out there.